Hi, this is Mike from BandLab, and in this video we're going to make a trance beat in BandLab's free online DAW. You can open this project yourself with the link in the video description, and if you find this guide useful, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to be the first to know when new videos drop. I begin by setting the project tempo to 128 beats per minute, and the project key to F minor. For a dance track like this, I'd usually start by making the drum part, but for a trance piece, I'm going to start with the chord progression, as that's going to drive the track just as much as the beat. I create a virtual instrument track, and set it to keyboards, synth keys, trance pluck. I program in a pattern that plays F minor, A sharp major in a second inversion, G sharp major, and A sharp major. I'd like the part to feel busier, but more rhythmic, so I open up the effects panel and add a delay, filter echo effect. I set the delay to 237 milliseconds. The mix to 30%. The feedback to 31%. And the cutoff to 694 Hz. This gives me a tight but highly rhythmic effect. I'd also like the sound to have more of a sense of space, so I add a reverb, space maker, setting the mix to 18% and the room size to 9.7. I turn this track down to -6 dB to give me more headroom to add other elements. Next, I want to add a beat, so I create another virtual instrument track, and this time select drums, drum pads, 909 kit. I program a pattern with a kick on every beat, and a clap on every other beat. For the hats, I put open hats between the beats, and closed hats on the rest of the 16th notes. Then I turn the closed hat's velocity down to 75. I duplicate this pattern out for the rest of the 4-bar clip. To duplicate notes or clips in BandLab, hold Option on Mac or Alt on Windows, then drag them to the desired position. I turn this track down to -2 dB to balance it with the chords. I'd like a high-energy flowing rhythm for this track, so I'm going to add a shaker loop. I open BandLab Sounds and click the Loops tab, then enter Shaker into the text search field. I drag Hyperdrive Shaker onto the project and use the loop handle at the top right-hand corner to loop the sample out for the whole 4-bar sequence. I just want to use the first half of the sample, so I use the handle at the bottom right-hand corner of the clip to shorten it. The sample is a little on the quiet side, so in the effects panel, I add a utility gain effect, turning it up to +6 dB. I turn the track up +3 dB as well, giving an extra 9 dB of gain in total. It's time to add a bassline, so I add another virtual instrument track and select Basses, Synth Basses, Fancy Bass. This follows the rhythm of the chords, but it doesn't just sit on the root note. Instead, it goes to F, D sharp, G sharp, A sharp. I turn this track down to -6 dB. Next, I'd like to add a synth pluck part. I add an instrument track and select keyboards, synth keys, pike. Again, this follows the rhythm of the chords, but not the root note. This goes F, D sharp, G sharp, D, with some grace notes to move around more smoothly between pitches. I'd like this to sound different the second time around, so I duplicate all the clips out and move the final grace note into a different position. I'd like the sound to have less low end, so I add a tone, EQ 3M, and take the low down to minus 28.8 dB. I also add a filter echo with a delay of 237 milliseconds. I turn this track down to minus 10 dB to balance it with the other elements. I feel like this track could do with the vocal, so in BandLab's sounds, I clear the text search field, then set the instrument filter to voice and the genre filter to electronic. Ethereal Vox 08 is the kind of thing I'm looking for, so I drag it into the project. Then I turn this track up to plus 3.5 dB to balance it. I've got a good number of elements for my arrangement, but I'd like one more to give me something else to play with. I add an instrument track, and this time I stick with the default grand piano patch. I have this play the same chords as the synth, but with a voicing that gives it a downward rather than upward motion. I don't want this sound to clash too much with the other elements, so I add a tone multi-filter, setting the frequency to 369 Hz. I also add a reverb, studio reverb, and turn the track down to minus 6 dB. I need some sound effects for my arrangement. I want a riser to build up the drop, so in BandLab's sounds, I clear the search options and enter riser into the text search field. Speeding riser fits the bill perfectly, so I drag it into the project. I truncate the end so that it peaks at the end of the sequence. I turn this track down to minus 8.4 dB. I want a crash sound to mark the start of each section, so next I search for crash. Cherry Noise Crash is a good candidate for this, as it has the feel of a crash cymbal but is more atmospheric and synthetic, which works well for the vibe of the track. I turn the track down to minus 6.5 dB. I'd also like an impact sound for the track's breakdown. Shell shock impact is ideal, though it's quite loud, so I turn it down to minus 6 dB. For the arrangement, I start with the drums and bring in a version of the synth pluck that just plays the root of the first chord. To bring this in more smoothly, I add a multi-filter to the track and automate its frequency to open gradually over the 8 bars before the breakdown. In the breakdown, I use the same technique to bring in the synth chords. I bring in the vocal halfway through the breakdown. On the drop, the bass comes in. The pluck line and shaker step things up after 8 bars. Then the vocal and the piano come in, and the track is really reaching its crescendo at this point. I then alternately take out the vocal and piano to vary things. At this stage, the track is winding down, and the elements are removed. Finally, we're left with just the beat. You can fork this project and make your own version of it using the link in the video description. Have fun!